Okay, imagine this for a second. 100 million flies. But not just any flies. Radiation-blasted, flesh-eating flies raining down over the jungles of Panama.
Yeah, sounds like a B-movie horror, doesn't it?
It really does, but our sources are clear. This isn't science fiction. This is a real biological war that's been going on.
For over 50 years, actually. It's one of humanity's biggest wins against a natural enemy. But most people have never even heard of it. Fought all over, from Central America, even Libya.
So what exactly is this enemy? What are we fighting?
The villain here is a fly called Cochleomia hominivorax. The name literally means man-eater.
Man-eater.
Seriously. And this deep dive, we're going into the whole incredible story. The fly itself, this New World screwworm fly, and the absolutely wild idea scientists came up with to fight it.
Using nuclear flies, right, to build some kind of invisible wall of flesh.
Exactly. A wall protecting pretty much an entire continent.
Okay, so our mission today is to really unpack all of that. We need to understand this parasite, just how terrifying it is.
And the problem it created, which was, well, desperate.
Right, and then this breakthrough idea that frankly sounds completely nuts, especially for the time.
Yeah, too wild to be taken seriously is a good way to put it initially.
And the sheer effort, the massive scale of putting it into action, and why, even now, this war isn't over.
Yeah, by a long shot.
So get ready for some pretty surprising facts. We think you'll have a real aha moment about human ingenuity, about finding an enemy's weakness, and just the incredible logistics involved. Let's dive in.
All right, so first, let's properly meet the antagonist, Cochleomia hominivorax. It's quite striking, actually, metallic blue-green body, these bright red eyes.
And our sources say every single one found in nature got its start how?
By eating the living flesh of a warm-blooded animal. That's its life cycle. It has to eat living flesh to survive and reproduce.
It's genuinely terrifying. How does it find its victims?
They can smell blood, detect wounds, even tiny ones from really far away. A female finds a scratch on a person, a deer, a cow, even a small squirrel, and she'll lay her eggs right in it.
Up to 400 eggs, the sources said, in one go.
Up to 400, yes. And when they hatch, the larvae, the worms, they don't just clean up the wound.
No. What do?
That's the horrific part. They have these sharp mouth hooks, mandibles, and they start eating the healthy flesh. They burrow deeper, making the wound larger.
Which just attracts more flies.
Exactly. It becomes this exponentially worsening infestation. It's truly gruesome.
The impact must be devastating for the animal.
Oh, absolutely. In bad cases, it leads to death. Even if the animal survives, it's severely weakened, often permanently. It's purely destructive, adds nothing beneficial. Just suffering. A true natural enemy.
And for ages, this was just a fact of life in the Americas.
A horrifying fact of life, yes.
Yeah.
But then things changed. Humans sort of accidentally made things much, much worse.
How so? What happened?
Well, farmers started introducing livestock, millions of cattle, especially across the southern U.S. and Mexico.
Suddenly, a massive concentrated food source.
Precisely. It became a paradise for the screwworm. The problem exploded. It wasn't just a fact of life anymore. It was an economic and animal welfare catastrophe.
We're talking whole herds wiped out.
Yes, and just awful lingering deaths for wild animals, too. Ranchers were desperate. Traditional pesticides, totally useless.
Because the worms are inside the living animal. You can't just spray them.
Right. So ranchers spent endless hours checking animals, treating wounds, trying to protect newborns, often watching helplessly. It seemed completely hopeless. Cochleomia was absolutely winning.
So, faced with this impossible situation, how on earth did anyone come up with a solution? Especially back in the 1950s.
That's where the story takes a wild turn. Two scientists, Knipling and Bushland, they had this idea. It was so out there, so audacious.
It was it.
They basically asked, what if we kind of nuke the screwworms?
Nuke them? How?
Yeah.
You can't just irradiate the entire landscape.
No, not like that. It was much cleverer. They found a weakness, a crucial vulnerability in the fly's own biology.
Okay, what was the weakness?
It turns out the female Cochleomia fly, she only mates once in her entire life. She might lay eggs multiple times, but she only mates that single time before she dies, usually around the 3 weeks old.
Only once. That's it. That feels like a major design flaw for a species.
From our perspective, maybe. But for them, it was their Achilles heel. And the scientists realized they could exploit it.
So how did that lead to the nuking idea?
The idea became, what if we could sterilize huge numbers of male flies, then release them into the wild?
Ah, I see. So the wild females would mate with these sterile males.
And waste their one shot at reproduction. They'd lay eggs, but those eggs would never hatch.
Theoretically, you could make the species mate itself out of existence. That's brilliant. But how do you sterilize millions, maybe billions of flies?
That's where the radiation comes in.
Yeah.
This is the era, the atomic age. Scientists had figured out that specific doses of radiation could damage reproductive cells, make an organism sterile, without actually killing it or stopping it from behaving normally.
So the challenge was finding the exact right dose for screwworms.
Exactly. Enough to sterilize them, but not enough to stop them from flying around, seeking mates, acting like normal male flies.
And then you'd have to breed them. Billions of them. Irradiate them perfectly. And release them.
Billions upon billions over vast areas. The scale is just staggering to think about, especially for the 1950s.
It sounds completely science fiction, the audacity of it.
It really was. But you have to remember how desperate the situation was. The sheer amount of suffering these flies caused.
Yeah.
People were willing to try something radical, something truly crazy.
So they decided to try it. Where did they start? You can't just unleash billions of irradiated flies over Texas right away.
No, definitely not. They needed proof of concept. So they picked an isolated location, the island of Curacao off the coast of Venezuela.
Makes sense. Contained environment.
Right. And they built this screwworm paradise in Florida to start breeding them. The method was, well, pretty gruesome.
How gruesome.
Think long trays filled with this slurry of ground beef, horse meat, animal blood, milk, eggs, basically trying to mimic a wound.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty disgusting.
Millions were bred there, then irradiated carefully, boxed up, and flown to Curacao. They started releasing them regularly week after week.
And did it work? What happened on the island?
It took time, weeks, then months. They kept releasing the sterile males, and slowly the number of fertile egg masses they found started dropping.
Fewer and fewer viable offspring.
Exactly. More and more females were mating with the sterile males, and then, almost suddenly, they were gone.
Gone completely.
Completely eradicated from the entire island of Curacao. It worked. The crazy idea actually worked.
That must have been a massive moment, proof that this seemingly impossible technique was real.
Absolutely. It was the breakthrough they needed. Now the challenge was scaling it up. Way, way up.
From one small island to, well, eventually much of a continent.
Right. So over the next few decades, they built professional worm factories. These weren't like the initial setup. These were huge industrial-scale operations.
How big are we talking?
Our sources mention one plant in Texas, just to produce 150 million sterile flies per week, needed 70 tons of meat and 12,000 gallons of blood every single week.
70 tons of meat, 12,000 gallons of blood per week. That's mind-boggling logistics.
It truly is. And think about the details. That lovely meat and blood mix had to be kept warm.
Why warm? Oh, right, to fool the larvae.
Exactly. They had to think they were inside a living animal. And the smell. Oh, the smell.
I can only imagine.
It was apparently so bad that airlines initially refused to transport the irradiated flies.
No way. What did they do?
They had to spray the boxes the flies were shipped in with cologne just to get them allowed on the planes.
Spraying boxes of irradiated flesh-eating fly larvae with cologne. That's a detail you don't forget.
Definitely not. So with these factories churning out billions of flies, the eradication campaign began in earnest.
How did it progress? Was it like flipping a switch?
No, it was more like a slow-moving wave, a biological warfare campaign, essentially. First, they cleared Florida, then they pushed west, clearing Texas.
And then south.
Yes, south, through Mexico, then down into Central America. Each step took years, immense coordination, billions and billions of flies released week after week.
The sheer manpower and dedication involved.
Thousands of workers, unwavering commitment. It really stands as this incredible, if mostly unknown, victory of human ingenuity over a truly horrific aspect of nature.
But the fight wasn't just contained to the Americas, was it? Something happened in 1988.
That's right. The war suddenly went global, and the stakes got even higher. Screwworms somehow hitched a ride to North Africa, Libya specifically.
Oh no, that sounds potentially catastrophic.
It was terrifying. The nightmare scenario was the flies establishing themselves and spreading. Down the Nile Valley, maybe across North Africa, regions with vast livestock populations and often very limited veterinary or medical care.
The potential for human and animal suffering. It's hard to comprehend.
Incalculable. The response had to be immediate and massive. It became this huge international effort.
What did they do? Fly in sterile flies from the Americas?
Exactly. Hundreds of millions of sterile flies were flown in from the factory in Mexico. Ground teams swung into action inspecting millions of animals.
And they had to explain this to the local people, right? Hi, we're here to drop millions of flesh-eating American flies from airplanes.
Pretty much. Imagine that communication challenge, explaining why these planes were releasing flies and that it was actually a good thing. But they did it.
And how quickly did they manage to stop the African invasion?
Amazingly, just 4 months. 4 months from detection to confirming eradication in Libya. A really stunning success of quick action and international cooperation.
Incredible. So Africa was saved. But back in the Americas, there was still the issue of South America, right? The Amazon basin, huge areas where the fly was still endemic.
Correct. Eradicating it from the entirety of South America was deemed, well, basically impossible. Too vast, too ecologically complex, too many borders, too expensive.
So if you can't wipe it out everywhere, how do you protect the areas you've already cleared? How do you stop it from coming back north?
They needed a barrier, a permanent defense line. And they looked at the map, and the narrowest point of the land bridge connecting North and South America is
Panama.
exactly the Isthmus of Panama. So a deal was struck. The U.S. and Mexico essentially agreed to fund a permanent operation based in Panama.
To create this wall of flesh you mentioned earlier.
Precisely. A permanent biological barrier constantly maintained, releasing sterile flies in a specific zone to prevent any wild screwworms from migrating North and South America.
And this facility, this nuclear worm factory, is still running today in Panama.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Mm.
It's an amazing operation. They've refined the process even further.
No more ground meat in Cologne, I hope.
Huh. No, now it's more like a brown protein sludge. Powdered blood, milk, eggs. Scientifically formulated, it's piped automatically into trays in rooms kept at exact body temperature.
Still sounds pretty grim, but more efficient, I guess.
Very efficient. Then the pupas are harvested and exposed to a precise dose of radiation from cobalt-60. It makes them sterile, reproductively dead inside, but otherwise they develop and behave completely normally.
And then comes the release. You called it an aerial ballet.
It really is. Every week, about 100 million sterile flies are packaged into special boxes. These boxes are loaded onto planes equipped with dispersal machines.
And they just drop them out.
In a very controlled way. The machines rotate and release the chilled, dormant flies at a specific rate. The planes fly precise patterns, back and forth, at specific altitudes and speeds.
How precise?
The flight paths are designed to be just 1.6 kilometers apart. It creates this overlapping coverage, this continuous invisible barrier zone of sterile flies across the Darien Gap region.
An invisible wall made of sterile insects. It's just an amazing concept.
And it's backed up by ground surveillance, too. Teams going into incredibly remote, difficult terrain, checking livestock, monitoring traps, looking for any sign of wild screwworms.
It's an incredible feat of ongoing science and logistics. But unfortunately, as you hinted, our sources say this wall, it's not foolproof. It's actually failing right now.
Sadly, yes. The war is definitely not over, and there have been serious setbacks.
Like in Florida, right, 2016.
That's right. Somehow, Cochleomia made it back to the Florida Keys. It was a nightmare, especially for the endangered key deer population. Suddenly, these gentle animals were being found with horrible wounds again.
So what did they do? Restart the whole process there.
They had to act fast. Millions of sterile flies were rushed up from the Panama facility. They established a new eradication zone around the outbreak, dropped flies constantly. It took months, but they managed to contain and eventually eliminate that outbreak.
A close call, though.
Oh.
And more recently, late 2023.
Even more seriously, the main barrier, the Panama Wall itself, failed. Wild screwworms got through.
How bad was it?
It spread incredibly fast, like a parasitic firestorm on speed, is how one source put it. It moved north through Panama into Costa Rica. There were even cases reported back in Mexico.
Mexico. So it breached all the way through Central America.
It seemed that way, yes. A major breach. The factory in Panama is now running at absolute maximum capacity, churning out as many sterile flies as physically possible. It's a genuine biological emergency they're fighting right now.
So the war is very much active. It's a constant battle.
It really is. It shows you can't let your guard down. But, there is hope.
How so?
Humanity has won this war before, pushed this thing back from entire continents. We've learned how to fight it. And think about other successes. Smallpox eradicated globally, rinderpest gone. We can win these fights, even against terrible natural enemies.
So it's an ongoing struggle, requiring constant vigilance. If you happen to be traveling in Central America, maybe Panama or Costa Rica, and you see a low-flying plane overhead.
You might just be witnessing another sortie in one of humanity's longest, strangest, and most crucial wars.
Hmm.
A war we simply can't afford to lose.
It really is an astonishing story when you lay it all out, from this absolutely terrifying parasite.
Seemingly unbeatable, right?
Yeah, totally. To this incredibly clever, almost unbelievable scientific solution executed on a massive continental scale.
And the constant vigilance needed just to hold the line. It really shows how sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from ideas that sound, well, completely crazy at first glance.
It's about looking at a problem differently, isn't it? Seeing a weakness, an angle that nobody else spotted. Seeing solutions where everyone else just saw a dead end.
Absolutely. That leap of insight combined with decades of hard, often unglamorous work.
It makes you wonder what other impossible problems out there, things we face in our lives or in the world, might just be waiting for that kind of unconventional thinking.
That single vulnerability waiting to be found.
Exactly. What issue that seems totally intractable today might have a solution hiding in plain sight, if only we could look at it as radically differently as those scientists did back in the 50s. Something to think about.
Definitely something to think about.